Hello, my name is Jonathan Marks. My heritage is broadcasting. I'm originally from the UK, but now for the last 25 years I've been here in the Netherlands. I'm actually a sort of broadcasting consultant, or maybe insultant is the best way. What I'm doing at the moment is insulting companies in the nicest possible way, telling them basically what's going to happen in the next 5 years. So I'm not a futurist, I'm a near futurist, because people don't want to know what's going to happen in the next 30 years, but they are curious about what's going to happen to broadcasting, especially in the next 3 to 5 years. I've been to IBC for several decades, and what I see is a shift away from, let's say, the pure hardware show into something that's actually far more of a software show. And what I'm doing now is to look at emerging technologies and how that will affect traditional broadcasting and storytelling in general. And what I think is going to happen is far more use of other platforms. If you look at a website called conversationprism.com, you will see that there are an enormous number of platforms that are now emerging where you can share a conversation, whether it's through photographs, whether it's through blogs. All these are actually competing, especially for time, with the public. There's a lot of hype at the moment about Twitter and Flickr and Facebook and those type of social media sites. I think some of that's going to die down as you see, in fact, broadcasters making use of these new platforms to distribute their content. What you've seen in the last 10 years, that all sorts of applications have come out to build a conversation with the audience. So it's moving from shouting to more sharing. That's happening because today in the world about 1.6 million phones will be sold. All those operate in your private space. If your phone shouts at you, unless you put some silly ringtone on it deliberately, you switch it off. If a broadcaster shouts in your face, right, you'll switch them off as well. No one wants to be shouted at. If on the other hand I show you a screen and it's got something I want to share, maybe we can have a conversation. I do expect broadcasters to make more use of the mobile platform. They're not doing it yet. They're experimenting with putting live television on a mobile. I don't think that's the future of mobile. I do think it's going to make an impact in terms of the way people react via their phone. And maybe it's a way in which people can preview content that will be shown on much larger screens later. Broadcasting has had the monopoly on conversations for, let's say, 50 years. And I think we're going to see some major changes in this coming decade. And that's partly because the costs of equipment has drastically dropped. So that's empowered a whole new generation of storytellers who couldn't afford to hire big studios and editing suites and things like that in the past, but now, in fact, who can edit on a simple laptop. And they can use cameras which give fantastic quality for a couple of £1,000 or a couple of €1,000, whereas this technology would have cost hundreds of thousands just a few years ago. So I was pleased to see at the latest IBC that they organised a lot of sessions on how to use the camera, techniques with lighting, and showed you by cherry picking from different stands, look, if you're looking for this effect, if you're looking for this design, then this is the equipment you need. And in fact, in many cases, the difference between amateur video and professional broadcast video is indeed in the way it's shot, but also the lighting and the extra effects that you don't see on YouTube productions. And bearing in mind that IBC has so many halls full of equipment, unless you get that sort of signposting to the right stuff, you'll get lost. So as well as IBC's training and production village, I'd certainly recommend that people go on the web to follow the conversation in between the shows. For example, thinkdigitaltv.com, because there you've got a forum of a lot of expertise of people who actually do this sort of stuff on a day-by-day basis. And also I think the manufacturers find these forums interesting because it's a sort of R&D. How are people using our equipment? And unless you've used the equipment and you know how to make content to a deadline, right, you don't really know what your equipment is capable of. Broadcasting still has a problem in that it's a very expensive way of sharing an idea, because the audience can only access that program when it's on the air. Now, because people are having more and more local storage at home, whether it's on a hard disk or whether it's indeed through on-demand services that are coming up, I think you'll see a separation of the shelf life of content from its actual distribution date. That's going to affect commissioning, so people will say, I want to commission a documentary, I want the shelf life of that documentary to be 5 years. Yes, we will continue to broadcast it in the traditional way, but we will also want to offer it on demand, maybe allow the audience to mash it up, to mix it, and actually to use it as a conversation maybe in the classroom. So there are going to be all sorts of new ways that content is going to be used, and we're talking now more about the life cycle of content rather than making all these schedules and lists, which in many cases I think will go away.